Oh, hi, David.
Hello.
Yes, so thank you for recording a podcast with us. That will be released this Sunday on rendleshamradio.com, and it will be on their website for the rest of, well, for the next fortnight. So people will be able to listen to your journey. But it would be really good for everybody to just have a quick sort of synopsis of what we spoke about and really how you discovered um, dialogue from your original sort of career path.
Right. So yeah, because originally I was an engineer, so in research and development. Um, but then I got depression, and then I wanted to understand why. What was in my personality that happened? And I studied counselling, but I could see there was something missing in counselling. This idea of a dialogue between two people. So two people in conversation that's like a counselling session, only it's not counselling. It's not you, the client, me, the therapist. And so it started down this route of a dialogue where it's just a deep conversation and to see what grows from a conversation.
And in which country do they have this as a...
In Finland, they developed the principles of open dialogue, and they use it within their mental health system. And really, they've moved away from the idea of labels and mental illness, and they've moved towards dialogue, or they call it open dialogue. And that really opened up this idea of a deep communication, a deep way of conversing, that finds a solution from the center of the conversation, from within the conversation.
Because I think a lot of people can feel frustrated by counselling. They know the clock's ticking and there's no actual real connection with that person. So what you're saying sounds very different.
It is very different because it feels a little bit contrived to me, this idea of being in a room together, a chair opposite each other, but also the fact that it's a therapist or a counsellor with a client, whereas I'm kind of down this idea that we're all in this together. So we're going to have a conversation together in which I'm going to learn just as much as you are, and I'm not the counsellor. It's a deep conversation, and from within the conversation something will grow, and see what it is that grows from within the conversation.
And I think what we've chatted about is how much our language almost keeps us stuck, like mental illness, like the word mental to me shouldn't actually be used in this process. And instead of saying breakdown, people say it's a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that comes from disempowering to empowering.
And that's really the idea of a deep conversation and what grows from the middle, and this idea of transformation, and to remove the labels, and to create a conversation that allows for transformation, for growth, for something new to be created.
And you've worked with a lot of people, a lot of people from prisons who've, been the perpetrators of some terrible crimes, and but then that all stopped because of COVID, didn't it? And you weren't able to finish.
Yeah, it stopped
right?
because the prison closed,
Mm-hmm.
but it was for me a really good training. How to accompany somebody from where they are at, and how to have a conversation with them that allowed something to grow, where insight can occur, where transformation can occur, rather than me go in as a counsellor with a young offender or whatever you like to label them as. And really go in without labels, remove the labels, and just two people in a deep conversation, and see what's created and see what transformation can occur. And it can happen just as much for me as it can with the person we're with.
And you found that a lot of the people you were talking to hadn't ever had anybody that listened to them.
That is heartbreaking to when you start to recognise that, because what I'm talking about is nothing radical, it's nothing, it's just a deep conversation. So why is it so rare that you can have such a deep conversation?
I know. Are we even taught those skills anymore? We shouldn't have to have them taught, should we? They should just be there.
Should be in schools where we learn how to communicate and how we grow things and how we move away from it just being a chit-chat kind of conversation conversation to something that's creative, creating something new.
And what I find is interesting, you said it tends to take about, I know, you don't want to generalise, but it tends to be about an hour and a half when the conversations change from just sort of being stuck in that trauma to then actually something growing from that.
It does feel like people enter into a story, so they tell the story, and it feels like a story, but once the story is finished, something seems to happen where the story evaporates, and then insight and creative space is moved into. And it can happen very quickly, but it does seem to happen at about an hour and a half. It seems like the ego runs out of steam and the story runs out of, well, what do I say next? And it seems to evaporate away, and you move into that creative space.
Because you can't stay stuck in trauma forever, can you? I think we've learnt this over the last 2.5 years. You can't be in that space of fear and anger or trauma forever. You have to progress. Or do you? I don't know. Are some people stuck?
And I wonder what makes them stuck. What creates them in that stuck place where it can't be transformed? And I wonder if it's because they can't enter into a conversation with someone where it's just free. To move into a place of transformation.
Yes. Well, it was a lovely chat with you on the podcast, and hopefully people will enjoy it. And check it out on rendleshamradio.com. Thanks very much.